Anna Glowinsky on TRE in the afternoon.
Anna Glowinsky here, and I'm about to speak to Michael Finnerty. He says that cheese made him happy. Now, eating a bit of cheese can indeed make you happy, but his life really took a big turn as he fully committed and dived into the world of cheese. He's written a book called The Cheese Cure, and I'm delighted that he's joining us now to have a chat and tell us all about this crazy journey that he's been on. Hi, Michael. How are you doing?
Hello, Anna. I'm well, thank you. Hello from London.
Hi. Yeah, I used to be a London girl myself, so I know the borough market very well. Is that where you are at the moment?
I'm not at the market at the moment, but I'm not very far. I'm about 10 minutes away. I have a little flat not very far from the borough market, which means I can dash to work with just 10 minutes to go and still be on time.
Well, it's a really amazing part of the world, actually, an amazing place to work. But the reason you ended up going there is because you said that you found your life was feeling a little bit flat, like a Comté cheese. What was happening in your life and for you to realise that it wasn't quite, feeling right for you?
I'm going to use the metaphor of a Comté cheese because I think maybe it will be something that people can relate to. Because sometimes if you've ever had Comté, if you've had a lot of Comté, you'll realize that it's not always the same every time you eat it. In fact, it can be incredibly different. And what you learn as a monger is that sometimes, for some strange reason, a wheel of Comté, despite the years that go into it, despite the centuries-old recipe, despite all the love, despite the great ingredients, despite all of that, it will just taste flat. And that's sort of where I was. And one day when I was cheesemongering, we occasionally will try the Comtés with this tool that's called a cheese iron that you insert into the rind of the cheese and you pull out a cylinder. And I thought to myself, gosh, if we did that to ourselves, we would probably on the whole be a lot healthier mentally. I wasn't having any kind of a burnout, but I was languishing. And I guess I was doing a job that took all my time and attention, and I didn't have anything left for anyone else.
So what were you doing at that time? Just to play the contrast.
I was a radio presenter.
Hello, welcome.
But I was a breakfast radio presenter, and it's tough. I mean, I don't know whether have you done it early in the morning?
Yeah, I occasionally cover Daybreak for Dave, and I've done 2 weeks maximum, and oof. Yeah.
It's a lot, right? So you're up at about 3, sometimes a little bit earlier than 3 in the morning. Our program, when you take it on, you do it Monday to Friday, and it's just you. Single-headed presentation was the program I was doing. And so that sort of takes over your life. It takes over your life, and it's not just during the week, getting up at weird and wonderful hours, trying to nap at sort of 11 o'clock in the morning and then going to bed at 8:30. It's also the fact that you're always looking, because it's a smaller team, I'm sure, like where you are, it's a smaller team. And so you're just always on. You're always thinking of ideas. There's always an interview that's coming up that you're trying to prepare for. And at a certain point, I just realized, it was taking over everything and leaving nothing for me in the off hours.
So but you had something. Do you know what I mean? You had a job, you had a career. How then did you just make a leap to be like, I know, I'll be a cheesemonger?
So, and look, if you're in a position where you're able to take a break from work and you're at all feeling like this, then that's one of the messages I'd love people to take from the book. If you can take a sabbatical, if you can afford to take a few months off your job and just just breathe, which is what I did. I was an unpaid sabbatical. Because I lived in London for a long time, I had a flat here. I was working at the time as a presenter in Canada. So I took my flat on because the tenants were leaving. I spent some time fixing it up. But then I needed some money because you can't just, go dip into your savings every day for London life. And they were advertising a cheesemonger at Borough Market. And so I thought, that's what I'm going to give a shot at trying to do, because it sounds such a strange thing to do. And in fact, it was this sort of magical world that going into it, it really helped me to regain perspective on my life.
And you did that by learning about cheese, about how to cut cheese, present it. I don't know. I'm just sort of guessing here. What goes into being a cheesemonger? What did you have to learn?
So being a cheesemonger is about all those things. It's about maturing the cheeses. We get the cheeses in different stages of their lives, and cheeses are mercurial beasts. They will change from morning to afternoon. They'll change from one week to the next. You're always trying to get them to be their absolute best. So that's what a monger does. A monger also tries to match make cheeses with customers. But when you think of it, a cheese exists for two reasons. One is to nourish us, and the other is to delight us. And I suppose if you have a certain view of broadcasting, that's what a broadcaster does as well, if you're any good. But you often get kind of stuck into the depressing news of the day. Whereas cheese, it's hard to get depressed by cheese, really. It's hard to do anything but love it.
And you're doing it in the world famous Borough Market. Now, like I said, I know that area pretty well, but there'll be plenty of people listening who don't. It's very unique, it's very special. Can you give us a bit of a flavour of what it's like in that area and working in that space?
Yeah, Borough Market there's been a market on that site, which is just on the south side of London Bridge, just under the bell tower of Southwark Cathedral. There's been a market for 1,000 years. So it has a storied place in the history of the city. And this incarnation of Borough Market, because it's looked different throughout the centuries. There used to be cattle that were for sale there, if you can imagine, in the center of London, although in those days it was south of the river and there was just one bridge. But Borough Market now is one of the destination gourmet food markets of, to be honest, maybe the entire world. So there's loads of cheese stalls. There's loads of different styles of food that have shops there. There's a little shop across the way that has food from Calabria. And the people who work there are, of course, people who love food. So we spend a lot of our time going across to, because we're friendly, there's friendly competition, but we're friendly with each other. So there's a great synergy of working there saying, oh, Esther, you've got to try this cheese. It's so good. Or someone across the way just gave me a jar of dehydrated strawberries from Italy. And they're so mind-blowingly delicious. So it's a pretty good gig.
It's a good gig. Would you say, because obviously it's a really, really ancient market, but then you're trying things like dehydrated strawberries. I don't know if that's a new thing. Is there a mix of modern stuff, tastes and flavours there?
Yeah, there's a mix of all sorts of flavors. It's funny you say that about the dehydrated strawberries. I'm guessing they existed. I'm no expert on dehydrated strawberries, but we were tasting them at the cheesemonger stall yesterday, and we were saying, "Oh, these are just like sort of candies." And I think maybe they were the candies of like hundreds of years ago, where in the summer you dried things out so that you could eat them through the winter when things weren't growing. So I don't know. You learn something at every stall, because the people who work in them are specialists in what they sell, whether it's truffles or olives or fruit and veg or seafood, or a butcher that specializes in chicken, or there's a ginger pig stall that do amazing sausage rolls. So it's just a lot of awesome cross-pollination that goes on there. It is a great place.
Yeah, it is such a special place. And, it sounds like there's a really passionate community as well. What really hooked you into this cheese life? Was it, knowing more and more about cheeses, or was it that community and actually being in the market?
So both of them are part of it. But what you say about cheese and what there is to learn about cheese, honestly, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah.
There are still there are lots of active debates about cheese, because I feel that a lot of it, certainly in the past, was trial and error. And you know, I was talking to a cheesemaker on Saturday, and she was saying how a different starter culture, slight change to the starter culture, or a slight adding in of trying to get extra fat into the mix can sometimes throw things off. And she's learning, even having done this for 20 years. I mean, why do cheeses behave the way they do? Why are they sometimes moist, sometimes dry, sometimes sweet, sometimes more aggressive, sometimes smell like your feet? There's a science to all of that. There's also an alchemy and a mystery. So it just feels to me, we had for instance, a staff monger tasting of just Comtés the other day, last week. And it was so incredible tasting how different they are depending on which part of the exact same region they're from, and how the recipes are slightly tweaked from one to the other, or the seasons affect the taste. And a lot of those things are unknowable. And I just find that super exciting.
And how do you pass that information on to the customers as well? Bit of trial and error, give it a go.
Yeah, well, that's the best way to learn. That's the best way I learn. Wow, when you can taste cheese out to people and see the reaction on their face, there's really nothing like it. And when you can give them the same experience as you sometimes get of being able to compare one version to another version of cheese, and you see their eyes light up, it's a pretty special job.
You just get a buzz from it. So what about, we're going to move on to a bit more of a somber topic now. You were there, you mentioned in your book about the attack on Borough Market. I guess then that you were there. What happened?
So there have been one attack that happened right in the market. And that was in 2016. And then or it could have been 2017. Obviously, that's not the one I was in. The one I was in was 2019. And it actually ended up happening at the north end of London Bridge. But the fact that there had just been one so few months before meant that not only was everyone on edge, but you just don't know what's happening when it all kicks off. So we were at the stall mongering. And on the other side of the bridge, which we didn't realize, someone who was wearing a fake suicide vest began stabbing people, ended up killing two amazing young volunteer workers. And he never did make it to the south of the bridge. But when we were at the stall, people just started running past us, almost stampeding. And I think we all immediately thought it was an attack. So we ended up taking ourselves, the two mongers who were on duty, and several of our customers, and putting ourselves in the fridge. We have a big stand-up fridge, and we all squeezed into the fridge and held the door closed, and we're trying to figure out what was happening. But all we could hear outside was shouting.
Wow, that must have been utterly terrifying. How did everyone in the Borough Market community come together? Did you, when you opened the door to the fridge, come out? Did you get a signal in there? Were you able to message each other?
We were able to do some messaging. Sadly, at times like this, I don't know if anyone else has had the same experience, but when there's a lot of people in the same area and they're all using the phones, then sometimes you just can't get through to anything and there's no signal. And that's what was happening. It was impossible to make phone calls for a while. Finally, we did get to the police, and it wasn't very reassuring because they said, after making us hang on for just a minute, they said, there's an attack and you need to stay in the fridge. Wow. So, we just waited it out. And after a while, we managed to get some text messages out. And it did turn out that the attacker was neutralized on the other side of the bridge by the police. He was shot dead. And that news finally got through to us. But they were being very careful because in these situations, you never know, right? And that's why people were so scared, because was there one attacker? Or was there two? You never know.
Yeah.
Eventually, we did get the all clear signal, and we were able to leave the fridge. And all the different traders had different ways that they were trying to make sure they were safe, whether they were hiding in corners or they made a run for it. But we all ended up at the pub and swapped our stories. And, when you have a common experience like that, it is something that stays with you for weeks, even years afterward.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you had the community around you and you are well and truly in this world of cheese. You've changed your life entirely. Are you staying? Is this it for you now?
Yeah. So what I do now is cheesemonger. I'm cheesemongering now, and I cheesemonger through the winter. I go to Montreal in the spring and summer. I'm originally from Montreal. You might be able to tell from my accent. And one of the things I learned is what I was referring to at the beginning of our chat is that you need to take the measure of yourself and figure out what's right for you. Mongering is right for me. I need to do it, but I also need to sometimes be with my people in Montreal and my friends and family. So I've managed to work out a way where I can go there for a few months a year and then come here for the best possible cheese months when everybody is interested in buying cheese. They buy more cheese in the winter by a long shot. And
really?
certainly,
Why is that?
Oh my gosh. Why? Listen, I should ask you that. Why are British people so focused on cheese at Christmas time? It's madness.
Yeah, true. Cheese and pickle. Yeah, cheese tray, cheese platter. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I've never seen anything like it. I'm telling you, it's not like that in Canada. It just isn't. Everybody seems to want to have a cheese platter, a cheese board. And we, on a day in December, will do the same business we'll do in a week or two in the summer. That's how big a difference it makes.
So it's not being made up for in the picnics, in the sunny picnics that people are taking their cheese on. The book, Michael, The Cheese Cure. You've given us a really nice chat about your life, about the change, about your passion. How does it read as a book? What are you hoping that readers take away from it?
I'm so glad you asked about that, because really one of the things I wanted to do with The Cheese Cure is to write a book that was just a big updraft. It was uplifting, that is delightful, that is a sensory journey. There's some tension in the book. There has to be for a good story. But you will, I promise you, walk away from this book feeling good about yourself, feeling that cheese is amazing, and coming along on my journey of self-discovery. It's a book that is meant to make people feel good, to not leave them with a sour taste in any way. So the reaction I've got so far has been really positive. And I feel in this day and age, when there are a lot of pretty dark things going on in the world, it's not feeling like the best of times, that it's nice to have something that will give an antidote to that.
Well, if it reads anything like how you sound, I'm sure it's really joyful. Michael, thank you so much for taking time to join us this afternoon.
It's a pleasure, Anna. Thank you very much for your interest in the book.
Thank you. The book is called The Cheese Cure, and you can find it on Amazon or the Talk Radio Europe bookshop.